Austria's track temperature is climbing past 50 degrees this weekend, and the FIA has already called a heat hazard. For most teams, that is a problem. For Ferrari, it might be a weapon. Hidden on the back of Hamilton's car is a wheel rim that does almost nothing for one lap speed, which is why nobody caught it in qualifying. It only shows up over a long stint, when everyone else's rear tyres are cooking and Ferraris are not. The question this Sunday is simple: can one hidden part flip the hottest race of the year? But this story doesn't start in Spielberg. It starts with a single line in the rulebook that almost nobody in the paddock bothered to read closely. For years, the wheels bolted to every Formula One car were the same supplier, same spec, locked by the rules. You could not touch it, you could not change it, and so nobody did. The teams poured their money into floors and front wings and engine mode, and the rims just sat there, doing the one job a rim has always done: hold the tyre on. That changed quietly at the start of this season. The rule that locked everyone to a single rim supplier was lifted. From now on, teams are free to design their own rims and choose who builds them. When the FIA signed off the change, the thinking was that rims were not expected to make a real difference to a car's speed. A bit of tidying up in a rulebook full of bigger stories. Ferrari read that rule differently. While most of the grid saw the new freedom as a chance to save a few euros on a part that did not matter, Ferrari looked at the same rule and saw an open door nobody else was walking through. They went back to a company they have trusted for more than 30 years. A Japanese wheel maker that began making magnesium wheels for Ferrari back in the early 1990s, the same supplier that sat under the car through the Schumacher era, building its wheels in a quiet factory in Toyama, on the western coast of Japan. That kind of bond matters here, because what Ferrari wanted next had to be built in total secrecy. They wanted one exact thing: a rim that could control heat. To understand why that is such a clever place to push, you have to understand what really ruins a fast car over a race stint. And it is almost never the thing fans think it is. Let's start with the part itself, because Ferrari went to great lengths to keep you from seeing it. The new rim appeared for the first time at the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. If you watched the weekend, you almost surely missed it, and that was the point. When teams bring a real upgrade to a race, they have to declare it to the FIA on an official list of new parts. Everyone sees what everyone else has brought, and rival engineers go through that list. Ferrari's new front rims were photographed like anything else, but the rears were different. Ferrari kept them turned away from the cameras all weekend, and the rear rim never appeared on the official upgrade list at all. A team brings out a part it believes can swing a race, and instead of bragging about it, hides it. There is nothing against the rules in that. A rim is not on the list of parts you are forced to declare in the same way a wing or a floor is. But the choice to turn the wheels away from rival photographers tells you exactly how much Ferrari rated what they had built. And it was the rears they hid, not the fronts, which is a clue in itself. The rear tyres are the ones that take the punishment, hammered by traction off slow corners, and by the engine firing the car down every straight. On a power track, the rears are where races are lost. When the tech experts finally got a good look, they understood why it was hidden. The old rim had open spokes, the kind of spoke pattern you have seen on a racing wheel your whole life. Ferrari got rid of them. In their place sits a solid ring running around the inside of the rim, and from the way it catches the light, it looks to be made of carbon fiber rather than the usual magnesium. It does not look faster. It looks like a fix for a problem most fans have never been told about. That problem is heat. And the rim is where Ferrari decided to fight it. Here is the part nobody explains. The biggest enemy of a Formula One tyre over a long run is not the road surface, and it is not really even the air temperature. It is the car's own brakes. Every time a driver hits the brake pedal, the carbon discs behind each wheel glow. We are talking heat that can climb past 1,000 degrees. All of that heat has to go somewhere, and a lot of it travels straight out, through the brake parts, into the rim, and from the rim into the air, and the rubber of the tyre wrapped around it. The rim is the bridge. It is the thing sitting right between a glowing brake disc and the tyre you are trying to keep alive for 30 laps. When that heat soaks into the tyre, two things happen, and both of them are bad. The rubber overheats and starts to grain and break down, losing grip lap after lap. And the air inside the tyre swells, which pushes the pressure up. A tyre that is running too hot and too high on pressure is a tyre that has fallen out of its window, and once it is out of that window, the lap times slip away, and there is very little the driver can do about it. Control the bridge, and you control the tyre. That is what the new rim does. The solid ring and the new inside shape change the way brake heat moves through the wheel and how it leaves, so less of it ends up cooking the rear tyre. Now, The rules here are strict, and that shows how narrow the path Ferrari had to walk really was. Teams are not allowed to blow air through the wheel to cool the tyre on purpose. The rim has to be sealed, with no sneaky gap for air to pass from one side to the other. Every single design has to be sent to the FIA to be approved before it can turn a wheel. And once a team picks a rim design, they are mostly locked into it, so there is no chopping and changing race to race. Ferrari worked inside all of those limits, got the parts signed off, and still found a real edge. Ferrari worked out just how much was possible while staying perfectly inside the rules, and then went for it before anyone else had even started. The numbers that have come out of the tyre supplier this season are really shocking. Last year, on a track like Barcelona, a team might watch its tyre pressures climb by around 3 pounds per square inch over a stint as the rubber heated up. This year, with teams building their own rims to pull heat away, that same pressure rise has dropped to closer to 1 or 2. Even bigger, the rear tyre carcass, the body of the tyre under the tread, is now running as much as 15 degrees cooler on the cars that have done the work. 15 degrees. In a sport where a tenth of a second is huge, a 15-degree swing in tyre temperature is the difference between a tyre that gives up on you and a tyre that is still there at the end. The teams that put the effort into cooling their tyres through the rims are getting a clear edge over the teams that did not, and Ferrari is right at the front of that group. And cooler tyres do more than add grip. They add options. A tyre running 15 degrees cooler is a tyre that can go several laps longer before it gives up, and that hands the planners on the pit wall something priceless. The freedom to stop one fewer time. The freedom to stay out while a rival dives into the pits, or to push in the final stint when everyone else is nursing. A car that is kind to its rear tyres is faster in the closing laps and harder to beat on strategy, because it can play a hand the others simply do not hold. Now, this is the detail that makes this rim so dangerous and so easy to miss. It does almost nothing for qualifying. In qualifying, a driver does 1 or 2 flying laps on fresh tyres. The rubber is in a perfect window, the brakes have not had time to cook anything, and handling heat simply is not what decides it. So when you look at a Saturday timesheet, the rim is invisible. Ferrari did not gain pole positions from it, and that is exactly why it stayed hidden in plain sight for so long. Everyone judges a car upgrade by what it does to the qualifying order, because that is the number that ends up on the screen. But races are not won on Saturday afternoons. Picture the stint. On lap 1, every car is about equal. Tyres fresh, everyone fast. By lap 20, the cracks start to show. By lap 30, the cars that cannot control their tyre heat are sliding around on greasy, overheated rubber, while the driver begs his engineer for a plan that does not exist. That is the moment this rim wakes up. It does nothing on Saturday and almost everything on Sunday, which is the hardest kind of edge for a rival to spot, because by the time you see it on track, it has already left you behind. Earlier in the season, in the heat of races like Miami and China, Ferrari had a real weakness. The car chewed through its rear tyres, overheating them and falling away in the exact hot conditions that should suit a strong race car. Then, the new rim arrived, and the picture flipped. Barcelona was baking at 52 degrees, the kind of track heat that had been hurting Ferrari all year. Hamilton started from second on the grid, not pole, so this was never about raw one-lap speed. While other cars watched their rear tyres give up grip, Hamilton stayed alive, and he managed his rubber to a win by the better part of 20 seconds. The rim was not the only reason he won that day. Strategy and the way the race played out did their part, but the heat that should have hurt him most was suddenly the one thing he did not have to fear. For a team that had spent the early part of the year being undone by these exact conditions, that was not a small win. If you are enjoying this breakdown, take a second to subscribe. This channel goes deep on the engineering stories the television coverage never has time for, and there is a lot more of the 2026 season still to come. A single clever team finding an edge is one thing. What turns this into a real story is what is happening right now across the rest of the grid, because Ferrari's rivals have finally worked out what is going on. Once the tech press started pulling apart what Ferrari had quietly done in Barcelona, the rest of the grid could no longer pretend the rim did not matter. Red Bull, in particular, is understood to be chasing its own rim, and there is talk it could appear as soon as this weekend in Austria. The footnote nobody read has turned into a development race, and Ferrari started it with a head start measured in months, not days. The FIA is watching this closely, and not too happily. A freedom that was waved through on the idea that it would not change speed has done exactly the opposite. Now, there is concern about teams pouring money into a costly new fight to build them over a part that was supposed to be a nothing part, money that comes straight out of a tight spending cap. There is already talk of fresh rules to bring the whole area back under control for next season. In other words, the thing the rules said would not matter now matters enough that the rules may have to be rewritten. They did not break a rule. They found a corner of the rulebook everyone else had brushed off, and they built an edge there before anyone thought to stop them. And this is why that head start is so hard to wipe out. Copying this rim is not a matter of taking a photo and making a copy by the weekend. It has to be sent to the tyre supplier and test-fitted to make sure the tyre sits right on it. Only then can it run. So while Red Bull and the others scramble to catch up, they are behind on more than the idea. They are behind on a slow, locked-in process that Ferrari finished months ago. There is a sharper edge to this too, and it cuts at one rival in particular. Think about the teams that built their whole name on looking after their tyres, the ones who used to win on a Sunday just because their rubber lasted longer than everyone else's. That edge was partly down to clever setup and smooth driving, things that take years to nail. Now a rival can simply build some of that tyre care straight into the wheel itself. McLaren, a team that has long won on exactly that kind of tyre care, suddenly finds one of its oldest edges up for grabs. That is why a quiet wheel rim has the whole paddock paying attention. Which brings us back to Austria and to the test that is playing out right now. On paper, the Red Bull Ring should be the perfect stage for Ferrari's heat weapon. The forecast is extreme, the heat hazard is already called, and the cars are facing some of the hottest track heat of the whole season. The conditions are so harsh that drivers are running cooling systems just to cope inside the cockpit. If the rim does what Barcelona hinted it can do, this is the weekend it should shine. But Formula One is never that simple. The Red Bull Ring is a power circuit. It rewards raw engine punch. That is a problem, because Ferrari's engine is still down on the leaders, behind the strong Mercedes engine by a big margin. Ferrari is bringing its first engine upgrade of the year to Austria, but it is a small step, worth a fraction of what they really need. On a track that is won and lost on straight-line speed, a tyre edge can only do so much against a gap like that. The pace, though, has been a worry all weekend. Through practice, Ferrari has not looked like the quickest car here, and the Red Bull Ring, with its long straights, naturally suits the stronger engines. Leclerc has been honest about it, admitting the car only really comes alive deep into a run, strong after 20 laps but not over a single one, which is exactly the wrong way round for a Saturday. So, whatever the grid looks like now that qualifying is done, do not read too much into it. Wherever Ferrari starts, high or low, this rim was never going to show its hand over one lap. The team has even tried to lower hopes, calling Austria a more average weekend than Barcelona was. The order on the grid is only half the story this weekend. The other half does not show up until the tyres start to cook. And yet, Leclerc has also pointed to the one thing keeping Ferrari hopeful. In the heat of Barcelona, the team was strong on its tyres in the race, and that is the strength they are praying carries over to Spielberg. So you have a gripping tension heading into Sunday. A car that may not be fastest over one lap, on a track that should not suit it, in conditions that just might hand it the one edge no rival has fully copied yet. Zoom out for a moment. This season has belonged to Mercedes. Ferrari has spent the year chasing and clawing back ground a few points at a time. An upgrade like this rim is exactly the kind of mid-season swing that can quietly reshape a title race, one race at a time, as Ferrari starts winning the days it used to lose. The hot races were where this car fell apart. If the rim has really closed that wound, then every baking Sunday left on the calendar just turned from a threat into a chance, and there are plenty of them still to come. And the timing could hardly matter more. Hamilton sits second in the championship, chasing the young Mercedes driver who leads the standings by a growing gap, with Ferrari behind Mercedes in the constructors' fight by a serious chunk of points. For Hamilton, this season was supposed to be the hard one, the year a driver in the late part of his career learns a new car and a new team and quietly takes a step back. The Barcelona win tore up that script. It was his first win in Ferrari red, and for the first time the move that so many called a mistake looked like a brilliant call. Every weekend like this is now a chance to keep a title fight alive that the rest of the grid keeps trying to bury. He cannot afford to drop points at a track where his own team expects to struggle. For all of Mercedes' speed this season, breaking down has been their weak spot. If Ferrari can stay within range on pace, a single Mercedes failure can swing a whole result. So, watch the long runs this Sunday, not the qualifying order. Watch the gap in the final third of the race, when the leaders start nursing tyres that have given everything they have, and see whether Hamilton is the one closing or the one being caught. If Ferrari can run a longer first stint than the cars around it, or keep its pace flat while others fall away, that is the rim talking, not the driver. Watch whether Red Bull's own version appears in the pit lane, and whether it does anything at all on its first weekend out. That is the window where a hidden rim, made in Japan and kept turned away from the cameras, either proves it was worth all the secrecy, or quietly fades on a track that was always going to be its hardest test. Ferrari found the edge nobody else was looking for, in a place the rulebook swore did not matter. Austria is where we find out how far it can carry them, and whether the rest of the grid copied it just in time, or just a little too late. Now you know what to look for when the lights go out. The one part nobody was meant to notice. Subscribe so you are here when we break down whether it delivered, and every twist this title fight has left to give.